he's been a little bit better than in years past. And do you guys feel confident about that run defense's ability to hold up?
No, not at all. Not one bit, man. Like one thing I read about Nick Chubb that absolutely scared me was the fact, like, out of all of the yards that he's accumulated already, 600 of them have been after contact. And the Buffalo Bills are like low in the league for tackling. They have so many missed tackles. It's absolutely atrocious.
I always try to get the perspective from other teams when we cover them because it's so easy to get caught in your own fan base's bubble and think, okay, these are the only things. But we know so much about our teams because we watch our teams all the time, but we don't know that much about our opponents because we don't watch them all the time. But we also need to bring in people who do watch their team all the time. That's why I'm bringing in Dan Mitchell, Buffalo Bills fame. He has his hat right now. I don't know if you're snowed in out there, but thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah. Hey, Quincy, I appreciate you having me on. It's been a long time, as you and I were talking right before we sort of started recording. Where Bills fans are sitting right now, this is a do or die. This is a do or die. This right here is a must win for us. So, I mean, I'm just going to be sitting in anxiety, I think, for the next couple of days, especially now that it's in Detroit.
Yeah, that's been an interesting element of it. I don't know how bad things are down there right now as far as like their ability, because like to get to Detroit, Bills fans have to go through Canada. If correct me if I'm wrong, like to get through there, and I don't know
Yeah.
if the highways, the infrastructure is at that point to where they can even make it to the game. I know if there's a way, Bills fans will be there.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
but
Yeah, most definitely. So from what I read, it wasn't necessarily that the playing conditions were a concern. It's just it's such a small market city that they didn't want like all of that traffic going through with the infrastructure in case
mm,
there was any sort of emergency that people needed to get out. And like with
mm,
Bill's Mafia, like absolutely insane. Like they'd be crushing tables on I-95 or something like that, or I-90. So I think that was the reason why they ended up moving it because it's supposed to clear up Sunday morning. But
yeah.
I mean, honestly, say for example that you didn't have to make the Buffalo Bills run to win a game and you're putting us in a dome, that's the silver lining for me.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, that's where we're
that's
at.
been a dominant, like, I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm looking at this differently because I've been watching this Browns defense and they've been super, super inconsistent, right? As far as
Yeah.
their ability to tackle, their ability to defend and run throughout the whole year. And my big point, even before they not postponed, but moved the game to Detroit was there is a element here of, yeah, the weather could have played a factor, right? Because Buffalo does not like to run the ball, and they're not
No.
necessarily the most creative with the run scheme, so you can stop them when they run it. But I feel like we forget that the toughest thing about the Buffalo Bills is Josh
Mm-hmm.
Allen. Right? Josh
Exactly. Yeah.
Allen really, like, I try to simplify this. Josh Allen, he's really hard to tackle. And a guy that's really hard to
Very.
tackle in a football game, not easy to play against. And I
No.
felt like if this were in the snow, Josh Allen might have 150 yards running or something like that. Like I feel
Yeah.
like that the Buffalo Bills would have been able to play in that kind of a game because they play in those games a lot, like more often than other NFL teams do, where it's like really cold and snowing, you can't throw as much as you want to.
Yeah.
With it being weather controlled, though, how does that change the Buffalo Bills' plan of attack offensively?
So here's the deal. There's been a lot of speculation of whether or not that Josh Allen's elbow was 100%. And so many Bills fans and like a lot of people outside spectating were like, oh, yeah, that's why he was throwing all those interceptions. It's because of his elbow. His elbow is completely fine. It was just a matter of his decision making and
Mm-hmm.
going into it. So I think that an injury really doesn't play much of a factor there. The Buffalo Bills, in my opinion, and this is probably like the biggest frustration I have seen, is that for years and years, last year, I would even agree with you. Like, listen, like, don't even bother handing the ball off to Zach Moss or Devin Singletary because we just simply can't do it. But this year, Singletary has been very, very effective. But the issue is that Dorsey, for some reason, once we even get somewhat of a lead, he completely throws that out the window and then he goes directly back into the pass game,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's it's been frustrating. I would hope that he has learned from his mistakes and he's going to utilize Singletary a bit more, like right into the run game. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see Air Allen out there as much as he possibly can. He's going to be looking for Diggs. He's going to be looking for Gabe Davis. Hopefully, Hines will finally be involved in this game plan by itself. And so a lot of defenses have been doing this recently, and it has been super effective against Josh Allen, is that they're not putting their best DB on Diggs. They're putting their CB2 and on Diggs, and then they're bracketing Gabe Davis with their safety and then their CB1. And it's been super effective because with Jamison Crowder being out, we had Isaiah McKenzie, who's really not that kind of guy that's going to be a world breaker slot. We have a rookie in Shakir who has been promising. But, I mean, I definitely see that this offensive game plan is more than likely going to go back to the past because we're so desperate in giving Josh Allen's confidence back with his past couple of games. So as much as I would love to see a good, healthy mix on offense, you're probably just going to see, the usual Bills just pass attack.
So, like, with Sean McDermott and that staff, are they one of, like, because there's two types of coaching staffs out there. There's the type of coaching staff that's like, hey, we're going to play our game, right? We're going to do what we do well, and it does not matter what the other team does not do well. And that's kind of how some teams go about it. Then you have teams like, I think Mike McDaniel has proven to be one of these dudes where he's like, look, man, I'm just going to do whatever you don't do well and just kind of hit that button and try to spam it like that. Because that's what he did last week. They didn't run the ball that much before they played Cleveland. They ran the ball a ton versus Cleveland because that's the Browns' weakness, is that we really struggle against some misdirection, like against misdirection run plays. And Mike McDaniel, I got to give him credit. He did a great job scheming that up last week. Is that something you see that Sean's going to be able to do, or is it going to be more like what you said, where it's like, hey man, we're going to do what works for us, which is, Josh Allen getting back there and doing his thing?
Yeah, man. I mean, as much as I would love for us to mix it up, and I know that, like, especially as football fans, like, there's always like this weakness that people can throw out there and say this offense doesn't have an identity, but the Buffalo Bills cling to their identity to a fault, right? Of being a pass-first offense. It doesn't matter if you're going up against one of the best secondaries in the league. You can almost expect that that's going to be the game plan, with Josh Allen is just going to trust his guys, and he's going to go out there and he's going to try and play hero ball and just make his guys make plays at the end of the day. So yeah, man, most definitely. Like you might see like a couple of jet sweeps, but since Dayball has gone over to and so right over with the Giants and stuff along those lines, really haven't seen much of a difference or much of like a massive change in the offensive game plan so far this year.
Yeah, and with
we
Josh,
just have the personnel.
Yeah,
and so we just have the personnel, luckily enough, that are able, and so to win those one-on-ones.
Yeah, and with Josh Allen, I guess he's had these interceptions lately.
Oh my God, yeah.
How much of this is it? Does it look like he's being a different player, or does it look like it's just like law of averages? Like he got away with some early in the year, and now he's just not getting because sometimes you have a quarterback who throws a lot of like turnover worthy plays, but they get dropped, so you're not really worried about them. And then later in the season, they're throwing those same throws, and then now they're just not getting dropped anymore. Is that kind of what's happening with them?
Yeah, so I mean, I hate to be that guy that comes out and says, "Hey, like it's like the luck of the defense," but like as far as like when you turn into statistics, like right on PFF, his bad throw percentage is actually down 5% from last year compared to the first 10 games of the year. So what I'm seeing is that, trust me, these past couple of interceptions have just been bad throws, bad interceptions from that perspective. But I mean, I think that that's something that he'll be able to clean up. Historically, like the past couple of years, the Bills went through this exact same mid-season slump. We lost 4 out of 6, and when Josh Allen was playing like absolute trash, but then he ended up turning it around. It's something that I think that with Dorsey and the coaching staff have gone back to the drawing board. And it doesn't matter how good of a quarterback you are. You could be a Mahomes, you could be a Josh Allen. Like sometimes you need a good quarterback's coach, like make you go back to the fundamentals and mechanics and just not make these terrible play calls going into it. So as Bills fans, we're hoping this is the game where we turn it around. I have been crossing my fingers that we protect the football, right? Because luckily with the Browns, they're not taking the ball away too often. So if there's any game ready to get your mojo back of like having a flawless execution in the passing game, it's gonna be this one. So I'm hoping that he can make that change.
Now, one of the things I brought up was that Josh Allen is super hard to tackle. There
Yeah.
might be somebody who might be Josh Allen's size this week to be able to tackle him in Myles Garrett. How much preparation
Stud.
do you think that is going into that? Do you think Deion Dawkins is up to the task for Myles Garrett?
I really don't think any left tackle in the league is up for the task against Myles Garrett, man, to be completely honest with you. He's a stud. He's always been somebody that I highly respect in the league. I wish he was a Buffalo Bill. I definitely do. But I think where
That
they
would
are
be
going,
insane with the defensive line.
right, right, dude, absolutely, man. Come on, man. We'll send you up first. Come on.
We want
So
Josh Allen.
yeah, exactly. So from what I looked into it, I've noticed that like your defensive tackles are relatively weak on the defensive line. Um, Not only with as far as getting pressure on the quarterback, but also as far as like run blocking. So say that I was a gambling man, would think that Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott are going to be running a lot of double teams like on Myles Garrett. And really just going on ahead and trusting the rest of our offensive line to handle your defensive tackles. And then Clowney on the outside. Yes, he's athletic, he's fast, he's good. But like you just said, we also have a very fast and big athletic quarterback that would be able to sort of scramble out and then also extend plays from there. So, I mean, I'm expecting to see a lot of double teams. I'm really not seeing Dawkins handling him 100% of the snaps by himself. So from a fan's perspective, that's what I think is going to be the game plan against Myles Garrett.
Also, Clowney not the best finisher of sacks, and this is not the week to not be the finisher of. If there's anybody who can break sacks, it's definitely Josh Allen. Let's flip sides to the offensive side of the ball. And I think the only reason I think Browns fans might have felt like they had an advantage, or even Bills fans, if this is what they were thinking, might have had it. The Browns would have had an advantage is because Nick Chubb, right? Nick Chubb's been incredible this year. He's hard to tackle. I mean, in regular, like we talk about guys being hard to tackle, Nick Chubb's probably one of the highest of the hard to tackle guys out there. Buffalo, like I know historically, at least like the last couple of years, like that's been the big thing to hit against Buffalo, right? You can run on Buffalo, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case because you guys, but I don't know if that's the case this year because it seems like some guys have taken some steps there. Like Rousseau seems like he's taking a step. Ed Oliver seems like he's been a little bit better than in years past. And do you guys feel confident about that run defense's ability to hold up?
No, not at all. Not one bit, man. Like one thing I read about Nick Chubb that absolutely scared me was the fact, like, out of all of the yards that he's accumulated already, 600 of them have been after contact. And the Buffalo Bills are like low in the league for tackling. They have so many missed tackles. It's absolutely atrocious. So with Edmonds, our middle linebacker, who is one of the better run defenders, especially out in the back, he's more than likely not going to play. Have Matt Milano. He's also coming off of an injury. He played fine last week, but I don't guarantee that he's going to be 100% going into it. And then our secondary is just a skeleton like of itself. I know that Jordan Poyer practiced today. He was limited, but he's probably not going to be out there, just to be completely like honest with you. So no, man, not at all. I fully expect the Browns to absolutely run it down our throat. And I think that, especially with Chubb, is going to have a game. The only thing that we can really hope for is that like we can go on ahead and generate at least one or two takeaways and then just play flawless offense moving forward. Because whether we want to or not, once you account for the fact that like we can't tackle to save our lives, and you have Nick Chubb like back there, he's going to have a game. He's going to have a game against this run defense.
It's interesting. I want to also ask about the two players on the outside. Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's on track for a 1,000-yard receiving year this year. Same thing with Amari Cooper. Both have been pretty good in games this year. How you guys feel about that secondary out there in Buffalo?
Man, like I said, so like I mean, like now you're going to be seeing a healthy dose of Christian Benford and Dane Jackson. With Benford as a rookie, and then Dane Jackson was a seventh rounder 3 years ago. Our first round pick, Elam, he is going to be out, and then Trey White has still not been out there. So I think that those matchups are definitely in y'all's favor. the only way that I think that we'll be able to take advantage of those matchups is really just doing our best to go up against like your absolute unit of an offensive line and just get pressure on Jacoby Brissett, right? And I'm not even saying that we need to get sacks and finish that, but as long as we can have him hold on to the ball longer than 2.9, that's his average of like how he's holding on to the ball.
Mm-hmm.
His completion percentage dips about 30% into the 50s, where once he gets rid of it immediately, it's like up in the 70s
Mm.
from there. So I think that it's going to come down to our defensive line just bailing our secondary out. Yeah, that's my take there.
It's gonna be interesting to see what holds up, what doesn't. The weirdness of this game as well, right? Like, I don't know. Every time I think about this game, I can't get that thought of my head out of from the 2020 year where you guys were playing. I think
Oh,
the
shit.
Titans, and it was
Yeah.
like it was like all the I don't know, somebody got blown out in that game. I think it was the Titans blew the Bills out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It
Yeah,
was Tuesday night football.
yeah,
It
and
was
like
Tuesday night
the
football.
Titans like could not practice or something like that, and then they were playing the Bills, and then like what something happened, and they just galvanized and just played well. And like to me, I feel like the Bills in that scenario where it's like, hey man, things are going our way. The practice situation, weren't able to practice. Now this game's moved. It's not no longer a home game for them.
And then we get blown out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Then we
then
get
it's
blown
like
out.
then we get to the field and Josh Allen throws for 400, and it's like, oh okay, yeah, they're still the Bills. So
Yeah.
it is interesting to see like this Browns team is not playing as well. They're in this weird spot in between eras where it's like there was the Baker era last year, and then we're in this like 11 game transition period to the next guy. So it's just it's an incredibly weird game, but it's a game the Browns need to have because if they lose this one, then it becomes real mathematical about their playoff hopes. So
Yeah.
we didn't. I don't know. I don't think anybody looked at this on the schedule and thought this would be a must win for both teams, and it would be played in
Yeah.
Detroit. But that's the timeline
No,
that we
yeah.
lived in right now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, just looking at the Browns right now, like I mean, I'm very interested to see like what Watson is going to do once it comes out. Because I mean, say that the man goes on a tear. I mean, maybe you guys can,
Mhm.
squeeze in. Who knows what's going on? But yeah, it's y'all have all the weapons. I think like really like the biggest missing piece is just like consistency on defense and then just quarterback play as well.
It's interesting. I want to ask you this question because you are in the AFC East roundtable.
Yeah.
We've been having this joke of a conversation all year. It was like, yo, who is going to win the MVP this year? Because it doesn't seem like anybody, like usually by now,
Who
you
knows?
you know who the MVP is going to be because like everybody is on the whole, this is his year. Look at the numbers. Like the arguments are already being made. The narratives are already being formed for MVP. But this year it was
Yeah.
like, it was going to be Josh Allen. Then Josh Allen had these last couple of games, and now they kind of like moving off the Josh Allen thing. And then like the next dude technically in line is Tua, but like
I know.
nobody thinks Tua's the MVP because we don't believe he's the best player on the Dolphins. The best player everybody think on Dolphins is
It's
Tyreek
Tyreek
Hill.
Hill.
But like, are you
Yeah.
gonna give Tyreek Hill the MVP? Like that
No.
who do you think is gonna end up with the MVP if it ends up with somebody in the AFC East?
Man. Okay. Where it is now. Okay, where it is now. And like I mean, I might lose like a lot of my subscribers for saying this. I think it might be Tua, to be honest with you.
Wow, Tua
I
Tagovailoa
think
MVP
it.
in the league.
Listen, man. I want him to be bad more than you have ever witnessed in your entire life. I have been rooting for that man's downfall all year because obviously I want Josh Allen to like move forward. But I mean, everyone knows the MVP curse, right? Like I can't think of the last person that won an MVP and raised the Lombardi. So I mean, I'm not entirely upset that Josh isn't necessarily going to be it. I'm not counting Josh out yet by any stretch of the imagination, but with Tua, man, like I mean, he's playing efficient ball, and I mean, definitely with Tyreek Hill, he's helping him out. With Waddle's helping him out. They just have a really good offense. So yeah,
Tua,
I'd say it's him.
Tua,
Yeah,
Tua
man.
or
Hard
Jalen
take, hot
Hurts.
Hot take,
Apparently,
maybe.
Alabama had the greatest quarterback room of all time that year. They beat
that
Georgia.
Mac Jones that year too. Yeah, that Mac Jones that year
Mac
too.
Jones, Jalen Hurts,
Mac
and
Jones,
apparently 2 MVP candidates. And who thought, right? But we are in the weirdest timeline because like even Pat Mahomes, he's not having like, see, when you have the issue with some of these guys, like with Josh Allen, Lamar, and Pat, when it comes to like trying to win the MVP, is they're not being judged on against everybody else. They're being judged against their past years and how people feel like they should look, and have they changed the perception of how they look. Pat Mahomes has reached a point to where it's like, you can't change the perception of how he looks anymore, and it's going to be hard for him to win the MVP because we already think he's the greatest quarterback in the league right now, or at least like in that conversation 99.9% of the time. And then with Lamar, he had that incredible 2019. Nobody's going to give him another MVP unless he does something that like surpasses that. And with Josh, everybody built up this expectation of Josh because he played so well early that it's like, I don't know if he can come back and reach it just because the bar has been put so high. For his Tua, though, the bar is not high for Tua. So if Tua looks like you can make an argument that he was a top 5 quarterback this year, people are going to try to vote for MVP.
I thought you were crazy.
He should probably get comeback player of the year. But like, MVP, I don't know, because I feel like it's hard to be most valuable player in the league, and I don't know if Dolphin fans are going to come after me for saying this, but it feels like it's hard to be most valuable player in the league when I can't really make the argument that you're the best player on your team. Like that. Yeah. That's the whole thing with Tua is true. Like, it feels like Dante Culpepper on the Vikings when he had Chris Carter and Randy Moss, where you were like, wow, look at these dudes he could throw it to. Not like, oh, look at Tua. Look how great he is. Like, I don't want to say it's like Tim Tebow-ish because that felt like a complete fluke the whole time. But there are some throws Tua throws out there. It's like, come on, man. Like, how did that get completed? And that's not what you feel like when you're playing an MVP. But it's been that kind of a weird year where it's like 2 of those dudes are in the race because Jalen Hurts has those throws too. Like, in games.
Oh, exactly. With guys like Tyreek, with guys like with guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, I feel like you or I could be the quarterback of that team, and we would be in the MVP conversation as well. You know what I mean? Like, they're playmakers right now. You know what I mean? Like, literally anybody off the street. And man. I mean, honestly, I don't want him to win MVP, obviously. I'm just going off of what player has the most likely chance as of week 11 right now within the AFCs. But then again,
Dolphins want him to win MVP because, boy, does that change his price.
Oh, yeah. Well, like, then, like, they'll finally have something to flex about, you know. And so, other than the 73 Super Bowl.
Yeah, because,
by the way, man, like, they, dude, like, sorry, Dolphins fans, but like,
this
y'all
Bills-Dolphins rivalry is more real than I thought.
Like, y'all need to let go of that damn 73 Super Bowl championship. Half of y'all weren't even a twinkle in your father's eye. It was rough.
Yeah, it's like when Steelers fans talk about having 6 rings to us. It's like, you were alive. You were alive. You know what I mean? You were alive for 2 of them. You were barely alive for 2 of them, by the way. Most of y'all that are. But yeah, I feel it. It seems like those AFC East rivalries are alive and well. I know I heard a lot from Jets fans because let me tell you something. I did not believe in them at all, and they found me.
They found you? Yeah.
They found me. Like,
they do.
Yeah.
And so they've been quiet for 10 years, but they're back now.
Oh yeah, I know Jets fans. You know, they be with it. They ready to go at any moment. They just let you know what moment it is. But I want to appreciate you for coming on here. You know, hopefully, I'll hope that Tua doesn't win the MVP for you. I want Lamar to win it because I want the Ravens to lose him in free agency and have him play for a different team because I am tired of playing against Lamar Jackson. So that's kind of where my biases are with this whole thing, where it's like I want the price to get as high as possible so the Ravens cannot pay it.
Listen, man. As long as Lamar does not go to the AFC East, and so I hope your wish
every time somebody tells you about Tua being an MVP candidate, here's your comeback. All right, you think Tua's so good? If you could sign Lamar Jackson right now, would you sign him? And
they would.
They're gonna be.
1,000% they would.
Yeah, they would. They know they would, but they
1,000%
gotta lie, act like they would keep Tua. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, but he the MVP though. But you would take Lamar Jackson over him like that. Okay, yeah. See, that's how you get them in the bind because they want Lamar more than they want Tua. They know it.
And you just keep him away from the AFCs, man. I don't want Belichick getting his hands on him.
Oh man, yeah, I'm rooting for him to play for the Falcons. Just send him to the NFC. He could just rule the NFC for the next 10 years.
Far away.
Yeah, you know
Absolutely.
what I mean. He'll be in Atlanta. It'll be like having Mike Vick back. Like just do that whole thing. I'm fine with that. But again, appreciate you for coming on. Make sure you check out Dan. Links will be in the description. AFC East Talk. He also has his own channel. Anywhere else that you are at that you want people to check out?
And so definitely Twitter. It's Real Dan Mitchell. So definitely go ahead and do that. You know, I've been like going ahead. And so you guys can talk some shit if you win on Sunday, or you know.
Bills fans take it pretty easy on Bills fans.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Y'all voted for us not to get moved. Like we usually take it pretty easy on y'all. You know what I mean? And we tend to take it easy on each other because we're both along the same lake. And y'all not Pittsburgh, so
it's Lake Erie squad, man.
You know what I mean?
Look at that.
So there that is. Appreciate you for coming on. Everybody else, have a great day. Have a good night.